So I have trouble waking up in the morning, and I'm hoping this might help me out. So we've all heard of sleeping aids that help you go to sleep. But what about sleeping aids that help you wake up? So this is where sunrise alarm clocks kind of fit into the equation. Instead of just it jolting you awake like a regular alarm clock would, it uses lights to kind of make your room more and more bright to kind of simulate the sun like a sunrise to wake you up more naturally. Now you can actually buy these on Amazon, but the cheapest one I found was like 35 bucks and it didn't have great reviews. And if you want like a nice one, they go all the way up to like $140 or something crazy like that. I figured we could probably make one a lot cheaper than that. So all the parts you will need will be listed in the description down below. And to start things off, we are going to need a clock. For the clock, we're going to be using the RTC DS3231. We will also need a MOSFET to control the brightness of the light, as well as a super bright LED. Now, if you look at the color temperature of the sun, at daylight, it's 6,500 Kelvin, and at sunrise, it's around 3,400 Kelvin. If you go to superbrightleds.com, you can find that they have both brightnesses. I'll be using the 3,500 Kelvin for this tutorial. To power everything, we will be using an Arduino. If we take a regular LED and hook it up to pin out number 2, we can write a simple code that makes the LED turn off and on. This is because pin out number 2 is not PWM, which means we can only turn it off and on. If we take pin out number 9, we can actually fade the light because it is pulse width modulation. To make sure you're using a pinout that has pulse width modulation, look for a little mark next to the number. You can also look at the pinout of your specific Arduino board. Perfect, so we figured out how to fade in an LED. Now using a regular LED won't be bright enough to wake you up. And even configuring a super bright LED to the PWM probably won't give it enough juice to wake you up. So if we hook it to the 5 volts, we get a lot more power. The only issue is when it's connected to the 5 volts, we can't actually control the amount of current that's being passed to the LED. But let's take a little break from that for now and set up our clock, because these little RTC clocks, they're pretty cool. After they're set up, they have a little battery, and if the battery is fully charged, it can keep time accurately for like years, because it just leaves a little trickle of electricity just to keep the time right. So hooking up your clock is pretty straightforward. The first pin is just ground, and you connect ground to ground. Then you connect the VCC to 3.3 volts or the 5 volts from your Arduino. The SDA goes to A4 on my Arduino, or if you have a different Arduino, be sure to look at the pinout listed on the pinout sheet. SCL will then go to A5, or of course whatever one your Arduino is set at. The library I'll be using to run this clock is found at rinkydinkelectronics.com. Be sure to click DS3231. Download the zip file, save it, copy it, and then paste it into your Arduino libraries folder. When you're done with that, be sure to check out the manual. There's actually quite a bit of things you can do with these little RTC modules. To set up the correct time on these clocks, go to Examples, DS3231, Arduino Serial Easy. Uncomment these 3 lines, check your time, and then place the correct time into those 3 lines in military time. Press Upload, and then when you're done with that, you can re-comment out these same 3 lines and press Upload again. After that, open up your serial monitor and check to make sure that your time is correct. Alright, awesome. Our clock is set. Now let's move on to actually creating our sunrise alarm clock and wiring everything together. So remember this little guy, the MOSFET? Well, MOSFETs have 3 pins: the gate, the drain, and the source. Now wiring them isn't as difficult as it sounds. Source goes to ground on the Arduino. Gate goes to whatever pin you have set with the PWM, in my case pin 9, and the drain goes to the negative side of the LED. The positive side of the LED goes to 5 volts. Now the gate pin on the MOSFET is actually what is used to control the amount of current that gets passed through the MOSFET. In this case, we're using the PWM pinout 9, but it's actually so sensitive you can really use your fingers to give enough current to open up that gate. And now time for the fun part, coding. Yes. So if you don't know how to code, don't worry about it. I will leave a link in the description down below so you can just download the code and use it like that. And if you follow this tutorial to a T, you should be all right. But for those of you who do know how to code and are a little more enthusiastic about it, I'm going to explain in detail, well, kind of detail, about how I wrote my code, and then you can take it, modify it, do whatever you wish with it, and make it your own. These first variables are kind of your settings. Fade time is how long it will take for the actual light to get to its max brightness, and it's set in minutes. So right now it's set to 30 minutes. Set hour is what you use to set the time of day that you want it to wake you up. So right here I have it set at 7:30 a.m. and then of course set minute would be the minutes. And then the ULED is whatever pinout you have your light configured to. So under setup, the only thing you really need to worry about is the serial begin number, and make sure that that number matches up your serial monitor's number in the bottom right hand corner. So this if statement is testing to see when it's time to wake you up and when to call the start function. In the start function, you will see these analog writes. This is basically just to fix the LED and make it become brighter a little less in the early stages of whatever time you have it set at. The for statement then controls the speed at which it will make the light become brighter and brighter depending on the fade time you have set. And then lastly, this delay will keep it bright for 1/5 of the time you have set and then shut the light off, hopefully to wake you up by then. So right here I have it set to wake me up at 3:08 p.m. Right now it's 3:07. I'll press upload, and if we check our serial monitor, right at 3:08, the light turns on and begins fading. Here's a little time lapse of it going all the way through, and then it shuts off, and the time continues to go after that. Now I don't think that this alarm clock will be enough to actually wake me up on its own, but I think paired with an app like Sleep Cycle, where it uses your microphone on your phone to kind of detect when you're in a lighter sleep, I think using that paired with this alarm clock, I'm sure I could get something pretty good out of it and maybe wake up a lot easier than just a blaring alarm clock to jolt you awake. Alright, that wraps up our tutorial. Be sure to use the links down in the description below. It helps me out if you use those links in particular. And thank you for watching.